Hi, I'm Chris Stirewalt, and this is Power Play. Hello, Internet Titos. How are we doing today? Greetings from a so sweaty Philadelphia, and I just apologize in advance that I'll be schwitzing all over you, Internet, during this discussion, but it will be worthwhile. It will be worthwhile because we're here in Philadelphia for the Democratic National Convention. I don't know why they put an extra C on it, I guess just to be fancy, but that's why we're here. And part of why the Democratic Party is arrayed the way that it is arrayed is on the premise that as Hispanic voters grow in number in the United States, and we all know, everybody read all of the books and everybody figured this out in the 1990s, that just based on current population growth estimates, that Hispanic voters will exceed, and this actually may be the election that they exceed, the percentage of black voters in the United States, and will be on their way to being a hyper-dominant minority group in American politics. Democrats are betting that that will deliver them glorious victory after glorious victory after glorious victory in election to come after election to come. But is that necessarily true? Also, Donald Trump, question mark? Somebody who would know about all of that is Israel Ortega. We'll be fancy when we start. I got to know you when you were at the Heritage Foundation.
That's right.
But now you're at where?
Opportunity Lives.
Opportunity Lives.
Online news site.
So you're the competition.
I guess so. Yes, I guess so. But we'll go easy on you.
All right. Okay. Take it easy on me. All right. So you and other conservatives have been making a case for a long time that Hispanic voters in America are available to Republicans, are available to conservative voters, not just because of social issues, because, of course, as we know, a large number of Roman Catholic Hispanics in the United States, but a growing number of evangelical Christians.
That's right.
So on social issues, but also on, I guess perhaps that's why your site is called Opportunity Lives, that because of a entrepreneurial culture, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. Look, and I think the big thing is that we're not monolithic voters. Hispanics are not monolithic voters. And you look at polls, and, you know, a lot of people say, well, you know, immigration must be the top issue for Hispanics and Latinos. But poll after poll shows that what Hispanics care about is the economy and jobs. And I think this is where Republicans have an opportunity, because after 8 years of progressive policies by the White House, really things haven't improved for Hispanics and Latinos.
All right, so like locusts are not my top issue.
Right.
I never care that much about locusts. Unless they're swarming and attacking me.
Yes.
So people, if you ask somebody, what are you thinking about today? What do you want from the government? They're not a person just because they're Hispanic is not going to say immigration. But if the nominee, let's say, of a major party says build the wall, rapists, murderers, stuff like that, I'm going to not hear anything else he's saying, right?
That's absolutely true. Absolutely, Chris. I mean, And actually, Marco Rubio made this point in the primaries. You said,
did he win?
He did not win,
he did not win.
But he did make a good point, which was like, he said, you know, Hispanics are not going to care about, you know, your pitch on taxes if they think you're going to deport your grandma.
Right.
And so that, I think it goes to your point. I think the big thing, though, is to consider is that, look, about half of the eligible Latinos that could have voted in 2012 sat out the last election.
Yeah.
And Arthur Brooks wrote a column about this in the Journal a few years back and said that he looked at who the Latinos that sat out the election, and they actually leaned conservative.
Yeah.
And so those are the folks who are describing the faith Hispanics and people who are starting businesses. So I think that's the opening for Republicans and Latinos. Obviously, having Trump atop a ticket makes it harder for Republicans to make that case, but it doesn't make it impossible. And I think down the road, I still happen to believe that Republicans are open, or Hispanics are open to voting Republican.
And we would also expect, by the way, that we would see the generational change in any immigrant group. Because 100 years ago, guess how many Irish Republicans there were? Not a lot. How many Italian Republicans were there? Not a lot. So now the Irish who came in the 1840s, in largest numbers in the 1840s, and then those who, immigrant groups who came to the United States at the turn of the 20th century, mostly from Southern and Eastern Europe, mostly Roman Catholic. Guess what? Not a lot of big Republicans in tenements in Boston.
That's right.
But within 2 or 3 generations, you see the change. And now that's something I want to talk about. You used the phrase, not monolithic. There's a misunderstanding in American politics that makes me so mad I can spit nails, which is that a Hispanic person who lives in Springfield, Virginia, is like a Hispanic person who lives in Miami, in Broward County, Florida, is like a Hispanic person who lives in Texas.
That's right.
South Texas is like a Hispanic person who lives in New Mexico, is like a Hispanic person who lives in California. There's like 5 different subgroups even within California that we're talking about. How long you've been in the country? Are you Mexican American, Cuban American, Puerto Rican American? All of this stuff. First generation.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, and I think that's exactly right. And I think that's the problem for a lot of politicians, that they try to lump Hispanics into one group, and they don't take into consideration the nuances you just picked up on. My family is Mexican, and we're different, politically than, say, Cuban Americans, like you pointed out, because they, fled communist Cuba, and so they've got a different kind of outlook, when they arrive to this country. But on a lot of issues, though, I do think that, if Republicans make the right pitch and you've got the right person making that pitch, you can actually win over Hispanic voters. And I think one big thing to consider is Hispanics are still optimistic about the future. It's a lot of pessimism going on, but Hispanics are saying, look, we're still optimistic about the future. So if there's a Republican, they can go out and have that Reagan-esque kind of message of optimism and make that connection, I think the party could grow.
So here's what the polls tell us. The polls tell us so far Donald Trump's only doing about as well, only doing about as poorly with Hispanic voters as Mitt Romney did, who stunk with Hispanic voters. Donald Trump is not, despite his comments and despite all of the stuff, the polls do not indicate that Hispanic voters are angry or further down on Donald Trump than they were on Romney, because they were already really far down on Mitt Romney. There is something else going on. Now, this we can't tell yet, but in terms of voter registration, we are seeing some astronomical, and this is anecdotal information, so I'm not telling you that this is what's going to happen forever. I'm not baking this into the cake for eternity. But we're seeing some anecdotal numbers that from Democratic-leaning counties with high Hispanic populations, we're seeing registration numbers that are through the roof. Is it possible that in this cycle, and I've made this analogy, that for Hispanic Americans, voting against Donald Trump will become a cultural signifier in the way that voting for Obama was for African Americans? Take your grandma, take your mom, go register everybody, get down there, make it a cause and a cultural signifier.
I'm not ready to go there yet. And so Univision came out with a poll a few weeks ago, and they polled, and then they actually asked a question: would you be open to voting for Republicans in the future? And about 30% of them said that they would. It's not great. It's not a great.
Wait. 70% said they would never be open to voting for Republicans.
Yes.
Ever?
So that's.
Like it's Santa Claus.
I think no.
Riding a unicorn.
I think some of them had about no opinion. So
it
wasn't a complete.
Okay.
But again, so it's not great. But I think to me it just goes to show that, look, Donald Trump has made it a lot more difficult for Republicans. But I'm convinced, and this is anecdotal too, I think that Hispanics are saying, look, we're open to voting for Republican. Donald Trump may not be that guy, but we're open to voting for him in the future.
Republican curious.
Yes. And so
elephant curious. Okay, the percentage. When you get mad about the polls, when you think the polls say the wrong thing, the question that pollsters have to ask or answer before they put the poll in the field is, what do they think essentially the electorate's going to look like? How white, how black, how Asian, how female, how male, how young, how old? Is it going to be this much like 2012? Is it going to be this much like 2014? What are the guesses? And ultimately, there are informed guesses, and some pollsters are better than others. Hispanic vote was 10% in 2012. Now, the Hispanic vote this time, some people think it could be as high as 13%. Could be, but it's not going to be 10. It's going to keep going up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I've seen some estimates say over 20%. And in some states, I think of course where it matters are the battleground states, right?
Sure.
So like
Virginia.
Colorado, Virginia, right, Florida. Those are the states that are going to, obviously California and Texas have big Hispanic populations, but we know how they're going to vote.
So your guess, just give me your number. Give me a forecast number. What percentage of the Hispanic vote will the Republican nominee get this cycle?
Wow, really putting me on the spot here. But I would say
he does television. Don't worry about it. We'll delete
I would say, about 25%. I mean, I think that they're, this is like I talked to a Hispanic convention last week, and they're saying, look, despite what he's saying on immigration, he's going to bring law and order, he's going to bring jobs, and this is what I'm hearing in other places too. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Donald Trump wins about 25% of the Hispanic
Do you
vote.
have a strategy to stop sweating? I do not. I've got nothing. I have no strategy for that.
I have no answer for that.
He's got no answer for that. He's got no percentage on me ever stopping sweating. Izzy, thanks for stopping by. We appreciate you. You guys got a blue seersucker suit. That's how you know you're dealing with a serious operator, when an individual is wearing a blue seersucker suit to a political convention. We thank you for stopping by. We hope you've had a good time. We hope that you come back for more Power Play real soon.